over 55 years, your source for agribusiness news and features from around the Southeast and across the country, focusing on one of the nation's top industries, agriculture. The Farm Monitor is produced by the Georgia Farm Bureau in association with Abraham Baldwin Agricultural College.
All right, welcome to the show. RD and JP at your service, aka Ray DeLessio, Jennifer Parson. And not to play favorites or be biased, but we have no shame in saying that today's show is really good.
Yeah, a little bit of everything. So let's get started, shall we? Coming up from field to fruit stand, Georgia's watermelon season is in full swing and Cordele is bursting with a bumper crop. Why this year's harvest could be one for the record books. From small town feed store to regional ag supplier, how Smith Farm Supply in Warren County grew with its community and never lost sight of its roots.
Plus, they travel hundreds of miles, trade comfort for commitments, and saddle up as a family. You're going to meet the Canups from Wilkes County, where rodeo isn't just a sport, it's their identity. These stories and so much more right now on the Farm Monitor. Well, I think we can all agree that nothing says summertime quite like biting into a sweet, juicy watermelon. And thanks to an ideal growing season here in Georgia, there's no shortage of either quality or quantity in this year's crop. However, as Damon Jones reports, there is a concern over falling demand after a wet start to the summer.
It's easy to see why Cordele, Georgia is considered the watermelon capital of the world, as thousands are now flying out of the field as harvest season is officially in full swing. Now, while it can be a hectic time of year, it is something growers really look forward to after all of the preparation and hard work that goes into the crop.
It's always the gratifying part, to take it to market after the months of growing. It's exciting. It's a busy time of year. This is when we make it right here. So this window is the abundance of our production throughout the summer.
And there is plenty of production, as ideal spring weather has resulted in a bumper crop for 2025.
Yeah, the growing season was good, almost perfect, and the yields are great. Quality's second to none. We've had really good yield and perfect growing season.
With that in mind, getting enough workers out in the field is essential this year, especially with watermelons being such a labor-intensive crop to harvest.
Labor is a huge part of watermelons. I mean, we have to pick them several times, so you can't pick it with a machine, and so it's all done by hand, and it's the same people, and they start in Florida and they go up the East Coast. So by the time they get to Georgia, everybody's in good shape.
While picking out that perfect watermelon is now easier than ever, thanks to all the quality control that takes place right here in the packing facility, there are still certain things to check for at the market.
Well, if we do our job as grower shippers, we should take a lot of the guesswork out of it for the consumer, and we really work hard at that. But you want to find one that's symmetrical in shape and no bruising, of course, and heavy for its size. And the ground spot is what we call the belly. If you turn the watermelon over, it usually has a yellow spot there. So that means it's mature.
Even though heavy rains over the past month haven't put a damper on production, the same can't be said about the nationwide demand.
Unfortunately, we got oversupply this year, and the movement in the Northeast and Midwest hadn't been pulling like it normally does. So the sun's harvested some. But the good news is we got a ways to go, and the movement increased starting last week, and we're excited about finishing out the season and getting the rest of this crop off.
Despite those early struggles, it's still a crop this area of the state takes great pride in producing for consumers, especially considering just how limited the season is.
It's really gratifying to take a product and take it all the way through to the market. Our window here in Georgia has always been, usually starts the 1st of summer and goes to the 15th of July. It's just a big time, the month of June through July 15th for watermelon production.
Reporting from Cordele, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.
For 70 years, one Georgia farm supply business has grown well beyond its small-town beginnings, staying local, serving underserved markets, and helping farmers get what they need. John Holcomb has more on how Smith Farm Supplies stays true to its roots while always looking ahead.
Here in Warrenton, what began as a single feed store has become much more since its start in 1955. However, over the years, the mission has always stayed the same, serving farmers in rural communities who depend on them. Today, that one store has grown to 13 stores, a reality that's even hard for owner Tyler Johnson to believe.
I grew up around farming. My family was in the dairy business and then went into beef cows. So I was getting older. Love working with animals, being around equipment, being outdoors, but knew that that wouldn't be able to be my entire career. So this came along, but I never thought it would go from one location to two or even to where it's at now.
Johnson, who purchased the store in 2008, says in a business like this, change comes fast. But serving local needs and tailoring each store to those needs is what sets them apart.
This is my 17th year in it. You could argue that ag business has changed more in the last 17 years than the other time ever before. And I can't guarantee this, but I'm almost certain of one thing: it'll change even more in the next 17 years. Georgia's a really unique market. It's a lot of independence, and we love to maintain our independence with things. We've gone into new markets or gotten certain stores. We're able to bring in goods and products that are essential to that area. We're not sitting in a corporate office in some other state saying, hey, every store is going to sell this. So we're able, each store has its own identity. A lot of your A items and stuff are similar, but there's some that you ought to call Smith Farm Supply, some you ought to call Smith Feed, some should be Smith Lawn and Garden, some should be, you know, the list goes on.
Johnson says each location stays true to what its community needs, especially in those rural areas where options can be limited.
We're in a lot of underserved markets. What we do is important. It's not that we choose underserved markets so it's not as much competition or anything like that, because we run into logistical challenges just with smaller fields, busier roads, lower populations. But if you want a 250-gallon tote of Roundup, or if you want a 18-wheeler load of fertilizer and you're in South Georgia, you have several places to call. Up here, it's just more specialized, so it's rewarding to serve that type of market so that people do have that option.
And while the business has grown, he says they're not chasing numbers. They're focused on doing right by the people who work there and their customers.
I love what I do. I look for opportunity to improve what we do for every person that works here. Getting the location doing more bulk feed, that location was bought to make the other 12 locations better. I really don't know what's next. It's not about how 17 years from now I want to be able to throw out a number of additional stores I have. I'm content. I'm content with how things are, but at the same time, like I said before, we are constantly trying to grow and advance what we do in a good way.
Reporting in Warrenton for the Farm Monitor, I'm John Holcomb.
After the break, long weekends, little sleep, and big dreams. How one Georgia Farm Bureau family is raising the next generation of rodeo riders from the back of a horse. All right, Ray DeLessio back with you here on the Farm Monitor. Right now, we want to take you to Washington, Georgia for a special look at the Canup family. Trust me when I say they are not your average family, and their weekends are anything but typical. While most are unwinding, the Canups are loading and unloading trailers, tightening saddles, and hitting the road. From trick riding to barrel racing, it's a lifestyle this Georgia Farm Bureau family built on commitment, courage, and a deep sense of togetherness. They say the road to the rodeo isn't a straight one. It's dusty, chaotic, and rarely runs on schedule. But for the Canup family, it's exactly where they feel most at home. For Sam and Van Canup, rodeo isn't just a weekend hobby. It's the fabric of their family. But like most things in life, it didn't start that way.
I didn't rodeo really before I met him. It's just always really been school for me. I mean, I did like horses. I've had them most of my life, but didn't really rodeo. It's not as big of a thing in West Virginia. But we did it for a while and he never really stopped, which I think is one of the reasons why our kids are in it so much. It'd be easy to stop and not take them and just stay at home, keep it simpler. But we have toted them along on everything since day one.
I didn't grow up rodeoing, and then I played ball, and then when I started rodeoing, I realized quick that you can go all over the country and you're one big family.
And for Van, it was never about pushing his kids to follow in his boots. It was about showing up together.
I've told them from an early age that they can make a living doing what they love, and they can make a living doing horses. It may not be the best living, or it could be the best living. It just depends on what level they want to take it to and the opportunities that open up for them.
These days, together looks a little different. With 3 girls, Hannah, Sadie, and Annie, riding in different events and sometimes different towns, family weekends now mean dividing and conquering.
So it's a little bit different now. It's actually kind of rare, I feel like, that we all get to rodeo together. Usually he's with Sadie at one and I'm with the oldest at another high school rodeo, and they compete both in different ways. So it's rare that we all get to do it together, but some weekends we do.
At just 9 years old, Sadie Canup already knows the spotlight and the saddle. Her act, trick riding. Her partner, a steady chestnut horse named Apache.
What are some of your earliest memories about being around a rodeo?
Probably me on my horse Lola. I was really, really young. That's her.
Oh, okay.
But me on my horse Lola at a junior rodeo.
How about a normal day in Sadie's life as far as practicing, whether it be for the rodeo or trick riding? Take us through a typical day and how you practice.
I normally practice new tricks. I'll do my old tricks again. And I'll learn new techniques.
Sadie's days are a blend of practice, repetition, and a little imagination, like the time she fell asleep in the barn, on her horse.
I took my blanket. I got ready, I took my blanket up there, and I got on him, and his butt cushion was my pillow, and I just fell asleep. Like, I fell asleep right there, and then my dad looked everywhere, in the truck, in the house, in the clinic.
If Sadie is the showstopper, then Annie is the firecracker. The middle Canup daughter is just starting to find her stride in the arena. At 5 years old and beyond her years, she's already dreaming of the day she can perform right beside her big sister.
I like barrel racing, and I like doing poles.
When you watch Sadie, what goes through your mind? What do you think about?
I think about, like, should I cheer first? Should I not? I don't know.
A lot of times I'm more of a, they're young and they're learning, and just kind of let it happen however it happens. And I know that's part of rodeoing and horses is, there's going to be days that if you try to make something happen, it's not going to happen.
How do you find that balance to where you're not pushing them too hard to where they burn out? Do you just let them go?
I think it's a daily struggle that we've done a lot of here lately. When they say they need a break, as long as they've worked hard, then they need a break and they get the break. But if they're not practicing, if they haven't practiced, then they need to get out and go practice.
Where would you like to see yourself in 5 years, as far as the rodeo stuff and the trick riding? What would you like to see yourself in 5 years be doing?
In our forage in Las Vegas, it would be a big travel and stuff if I wanted to go there, but it's a really big rodeo. Best people in the world go there. They normally don't have that many acts, but I'm hoping that I can be one of them.
In a world that moves fast, the Canups are choosing something different. Long roads, hard work, and the kind of memories that don't come with shortcuts. Yeah, buddy, from small town Georgia to big rodeo dreams, the Canups proving once again that with family by your side, the ride is always worth it.
Still to come, paddling to improve water quality. Plus, there's a new exhibit in Cartersville that tells the story of how farm life and the open road are more connected than you might think.
If we don't care about water quality problems at the source, they just turn into bigger water quality problems downstream. And that poses human health risks. Increased nitrate concentrations can cause blue baby syndrome in infants, and in adults it can be linked to an increasing incidence of thyroid disease and colorectal cancer. So we have to solve these problems. So we're trying to develop new approaches for understanding where water quality problems are originating in agricultural watersheds. Some parts of the watershed can be disproportionately important. We think if we can identify those regions, we can come up with more efficient ways to use conservation programs to solve those problems, or at least reduce them. The traditional approach for monitoring water quality is to set up a bunch of equipment at one fixed location and monitor continuously through time at one fixed point in space. And so what we've done is we've taken that monitoring platform, and instead of sticking it on the side of a stream bank, we're putting it in a small raft, and we're floating down the stream with a GPS unit attached. And that allows us to make spatial maps of water quality in the middle of the stream network to understand better where water quality problems are coming up. I like to describe this project really simply as we take $50,000 worth of science and put it in a $50 cooler, put that in a $500 boat, and then go out and make these maps. The data sets that we've been able to collect with that sampling platform are akin to what it would take 5 to 10 times that amount of resources to do with the old kind of fixed location monitoring strategy. You can measure a lot of things, but we've started our investigation focusing on nitrate because in the upper Mississippi River Basin, it's a pervasive contaminant in agricultural watersheds. And so what we've seen with monitoring nitrate throughout these watersheds from the pack raft is that there are some tributaries in these streams that are consistently more concentrated in terms of the nitrate they're sending downstream, others that are less concentrated. And we wouldn't have necessarily predicted that based on a land use map alone. So we now know that there's something unique about those ditches or those other tributaries, and that gives us ideas about what things to try next. Things to try next would be to increase our monitoring of those ditches and tributaries, looking at more detailed land use history information to see if we can understand what's causing that part of the landscape to behave differently. And if it's a part of the landscape that is giving us cleaner water than typical, then we want to try to identify that so we can maybe emulate it elsewhere. And if it's a part of the landscape that's giving more nutrients than its neighbors, then we know that that might be a place to target more effective conservation practices.
Finally this week, what do tractors and sports cars have in common? Well, a lot more than you think.
Yes, and at the Savoy Car Museum in Cartersville, a new exhibit called Harvest to Highway explores how farm equipment and car manufacturing have long been intertwined. The display features 11 unique vehicles, including a rare Lamborghini tractor. Together, they help tell the story of American innovation from the fields to the freeways.
We are a farming community in the area, and of course Georgia, there's a lot of farming, and so this was a way of really helping to showcase what farming has meant to the United States. And of course, the tractor was the development after people began to leave the farms and pretty much move to the cities. They were almost forced to mechanize. The idea was we would have the tractor, we would have the manufacturer, the car manufacturer, who also made tractors, and we would pair up one of each. Minneapolis Molen, that tractor was designed to be a tractor, but you could also drive it out on the street. It's a two-seater, fully enclosed, and so it was a combination vehicle. Minneapolis Molen did a really extensive survey of farmers around the United States, asking them, if you could have your wish list, what would you want? And a lot of it came back was, we'd like to have a lot of the amenities that we get in a car, however, we don't want to sacrifice power. This is a fully enclosed cab. It has venting windows with actual windshield wipers, has headlights with a high and low beam, chrome bumper on the front. Not sure how that works for farming, but nice touch. Fully enclosed cab. It had heat, something that farmers, I think they used to use what was called a heat houser, where you blanketed your engine and you could get, in the winter, it would kick back some heat to you. Well, now you had heat. It has a fan in there, so it has ventilation for the summertime. Has almost like an automotive type dashboard with all the gauges in it. Cigar lighter, have to have your cigar lighter. Capable of doing 40 miles an hour, top speed on the highway. So theoretically, if you chose to, you could drive off the field, get onto the street, drive the Minneapolis Molen to town. So it was the combination vehicle. Well, the question is, what came first, the tractor or the car? And what a lot of people don't know, it was the tractor. He was always mechanically inclined as a kid. Our version of high school over there, he went to a school for automotive mechanics during the war. He was a POW and he worked at the British Motor Pool. And after the war, he decided he wanted to build a business, and so he got old spare parts and old military parts, and he started building tractors. And within a year, he had a factory, fully operational factory. By the time in about 2 or 3 decades, they were the 3rd largest tractor builder in Italy. And so Lamborghini built his own car company. And ironically enough, we have a 1970 Miura here on display, and that was the first car that was designated a supercar. And Enzo Ferrari was still alive at the time, so he saw that it was a Lamborghini and not a Ferrari that was the first supercar. So a little bit of, like, what is it, the revenge is best eaten, when the plate is cold. Yeah, we really give people a chance to see that car companies did much more than cars. They were very much involved in agriculture, and it was really a no-brainer. You would take what you were building into a car, and now you mechanize it and you use it for the farm. And of course that changed farming completely because as people left the farms, mechanization was the answer in terms of increasing production. And of course, as the Midwest opened up, having mechanized equipment really changed farming out there because of the large swaths of land that they could now go and actually produce because you had equipment that could do that.
So now that we have your attention, maybe you're curious to see the exhibit in person or want more information. Very simple. Head to savoymuseum.org for full exhibit info, exclusive photos, and specs on all 11 tractors and cars. The exhibit runs through September 28th. Speaking of tractors and cars, time for us to hit the road.
But first, from all of us to all of you, thanks for watching. Take care, and we'll see you soon for another Farm Monitor. Have a great week.